open up?
No, I think so we do have to say that Zillow decided to exit their business of purchasing homes and reselling them, which we have categorized as iBuyers. So if maybe Mike can let us know, what are your thoughts about them exiting the iBuyer space?
Yeah, the iBuyer space, obviously realtors were already on the edge about it. One of the biggest challenges we have in the industry, if Eddie and Cynthia would agree, is challenging the Zestimate itself. Having clients say, well, Zillow says my home is worth this. Zillow says my home is worth that. Exactly. Us. It's almost every transaction, but as professionals, we have to really show our value and say, it's up to us to say, well, here's why a Zestimate is a Zestimate. It's basically providing an algorithm which cannot offset the need for have a realtor to come into a home and give a proper value based off of condition, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
Now, Zillow ended up buying over 7,000 homes.
Wow.
7,000 homes. And oddly enough, you would figure that they would have had consultants in the mix. And I don't know the entire back end, but I don't believe they did. They weren't consulting realtors. They trusted in their algorithm. And now the CEO has come out and openly stated that their algorithm does not work. And there is no substitute. And I quote this, and you guys can look it up. There's no substitute for having a realtor come in and actually give the value of a home based off of their data. So it's extremely tough to, you never want to see anyone fail. And we were kind of talking about this before, but at the same token, we've given Zillow all the power in the world to open up and expand and almost kind of put us in jeopardy of losing a little bit of our value. So at the same token as you don't want to see someone fail, it's also nice to see people recognizing that us realtors as a whole have an extreme amount of power and professionalism in the industry.
Sure. Yeah, there's really no substitute for really evaluating a property and analyzing its condition as it relates to other recently sold properties in the area. And I think an algorithm just doesn't do a good enough job of getting those numbers together. And unfortunately, Zillow has seen their great losses to entering the space and just relying on that algorithm and not relying on the professionals to help them along in the process. We're saddened to see, all those people lose their jobs because they reduced their workforce by 25%. But at the end of the day, it really does come down to, you should use a realtor. You get to the right price, make sure you're not leaving any money on the table. And then subsequently, I think on our side as realtors, we got to look to really fill in that void where if a person does not want to go through the hassle of putting their house on the market and they're looking for a quick offer, then we need to pivot and bring them investors that are going to pay them, the price that the property's worth without going through the hassles, right? So you may, as a consumer, you may be leaving a little bit of money on the table in exchange for that hassle, right? So perhaps an investor is going to pay you 75 cents on the dollar or something like that, and you can get your offer and be out of the property quickly and not have to go through the hassles of preparing the home for sale, making sure that the curb appeal is right, making sure that you're going through repairs prior to putting it on. You don't have to go through any of that. The investor will come in and pay your price and make it as convenient as possible in exchange for, getting that actual profit margin, right?
So
it's just looking at buyers and sellers.
Yeah, it's looking at it a little bit differently. But I also think to add that value, I think you can't have that rookie agent come in and say, oh, I have 12 investors that are ready to go at a snap of a finger to purchase these homes. So I think like when you speak to people that have large teams and people that have a lot of experience, it speaks in both for itself. It literally says we know the people, we have the people behind us as opposed to using someone else as well. And with Zillow, you would almost assume that a company that large, that they would have had a proper sample.
Sure.
So how do you not run I mean, a big enough sample to say, okay, can we do this? Can we not do that? Now, keep in mind, they also did it during COVID.
Right.
Okay. So COVID, what do we have? We have supply chain issues during the entire COVID. We can't get doors. We can't get frames. Builders aren't building. Lumber was up 30, 40, 50%. Sure. So when Zillow steps in and doesn't really test the market or have proper samples, that's what truly blew my mind. Is such a big conglomerate for housing. How do you not have a proper studies done?
Sure.
You know, so it's like almost when you say you don't want to see anyone fail, but the same token, it's like, I know if me and you were just talking about different videos, have you done this? Have I done that? What do you spend? How can we do this? How can we integrate it into our CRMs? How can we make it better? How do CEOs of these billion-dollar corporations not have the similar conversations?
Yeah.
In order to just jump on something, go full in, become brokers, change the way it affects all of us. When they became brokers, it literally changed. Our reviews went away.
Right.
The whole MLS, or not the MLS, I'm sorry, the Zillow features, Zillow reviews, top agents, everything kind of shifted. Now they were actually sharing. I don't remember if we had a click to share the IDX or how it worked, but I remember on the MLS, it completely changed as well.
Sure.
So they disrupted our industry, but really didn't have enough sample on the back end. And like I said, you never want to see anyone fail. But at the same token, a company like that, how you don't have a proper sample, run it in a small market. And I'm sure they did somewhat, but how do you not know that everything is XYZ expensive? They're purchasing homes and they figured they would have people come in, fix them up, sell them. Right. And we were talking before, and how do you pivot, right? Is there a different way to have an algorithm? And if we're saying the space itself, so how do we say, like, not for me and you, or even if it was you and I, say, hey, we want to start like an iBuy program. How could we do it differently? And I think one of the big things we spoke on was condition. There was nothing to say, well, you know, what's the condition of your home? It's like, well, this estimate says this, so we're going to ballpark it there. I never saw anything that says, is it like when we said like Carvana or Kelley Blue Book or one of those things, your car is good, medium, poor, excellent, brand new. Like, tell us a little bit, even if it's your interest spec. Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
So we don't
nothing.
You got to let the consumer rate it. You know, so if the seller was rating their own home, but then you got to have a professional or consultant to come in afterwards and kind of validate or invalidate that assessment, right? So if a seller says, "Hey, I think my house is great," the consultant comes in and says they were, it's like, they weren't right. They overblew it. We think that the assessment of the house is, rather than here, it's here. So, and that would protect their bottom line, right, at the end of the day, because they would be able to at least purchase the homes at the right price and create a significant amount of margin for themselves so that they could resell them at a profit.
Right.
Because that was the whole objective, right? Was to get into that space so that they can flip homes.
And we all utilize that space. So it's not just the Zestimate and Zillow. I mean, we have a home valuation tool. You have a home valuation tool. Any agents that are, want to provide some type of instantaneous algorithmic value. But the thing is, we have a back end. And every email, every time we do a home valuation, we have a disclaimer right on it saying, listen, a home valuation will never make up for having a real estate agent come into your house, run a proper comps of your house, condition of your house. Right. Even when I go on listing appointments, I have a general price where I know it's going to fall into this bracket, but I say, I want to see your home prior, and then I will get back to you with the value once I do a thorough walkthrough and truly understand the property.
Right. I think I probably would end on this note is that, especially in the Northeast, we have so many different house styles. We're not kind of like those areas in California where you have cookie cutter homes, Florida where you have the cookie cutter homes where they're 4-bed, 2-bath, communities that are all built out, and it's probably a lot easier to comp those things out than it is to be here in the Northeast where you're looking at capes, colonials, capes that were expanded. Ranches, all kinds of additions and things that were done to homes. I think.
And oddly enough, what they say is, even the conferences I went to, and we talk about real estate in different areas, Midwest, West, North, South, Texas, wherever you may be, everyone that knows the industry will always say the Northeast is a completely different animal. And it's true, and it's 100% true. Like I've only worked in the Northeast, but I've actually looked at other areas. Looked at Colorado. We look to see what's going on in San Diego. We look at Delray Beach in Florida. Look at Austin, Texas, and what it's done in over the past 10 years. And you kind of say, okay, and you see the different styles, similar styles home, and even people I know that have worked in those areas or conferences that we've gone to, they all say the same thing. The Northeast is a different animal, and even value wise. And this is same across the country, but I mean, we could have one street over. You can have a $3 million house, and then literally in walking distance have a $250,000 home. And I know it happens in Connecticut, Long Island, especially New York, especially Boston area, same thing. So Northeast is a different animal. Yeah, for sure.
So you almost have to take those things into consideration before you dive in and just make an offer, right?
Right. And I think that's what brings us to the importance and the professionalism of a realtor.
Yeah.
It really is something where we need to come into the home. We're going to have that one-on-one with you. We're going to explain why our number is our number, how we came about our number, and we're going to back it by facts. I mean, how many times have you had the conversations, even sitting down and saying, okay, here's a booklet of 20 homes that are kind of like yours. Okay, but say out of 1 through 10, if we were going to rate your home, we would put it at a 6.5.
Yeah.
Here's what the 6.5s look like. Here's the value.
Right.
Here's what the 10s look like.
Right.
Here's the value. Here's what the 3s look like. Here's the value. And where would you put yourself? And it's almost like putting it onto the seller and saying, okay, tell me, where do you think your home lies? Well, we're right about here. Okay, well, then I could say, well, the market that we're in currently, we're seeing a 10 to 15%, but let's price it aggressively so we bring the most people in to get potential multiple offers on your property. Correct. Now, these are conversations that we have every day on the back end of realtors. And once again, like you would wonder, like, okay, did the CEOs know that we have a shortage of everything, or that lumber and building supplies are XYZ up, or that you can't get your hands on a contractor? I mean, all these questions that just were unanswered. And that's a lot what happens is that snap finger judgment. I want to do this. Let's go and do it. And to be fully honest, the CEO of Zillow has never been fully honest. He originally said, no, we just want to supply this to the people. We have no desire to sell homes. We have no desire to do mortgages. And it's every 3 to 4 years, they completely flip their script. And now we're doing mortgages. Now we're selling homes.
Well, they're beholden to their investor, their shareholders. So they're really just looking to create value to their shareholders and make a profit as a company, and you can't fault that. It's just a question of you shouldn't make those commitments ahead of time, and because you will be characterized as a liar afterwards, right? So.
And that's been every 3 years. It's come up and we said this, or you said this, and here we are. So
I'm not mad at them. I understand it. It's just you have to be able to.
And they're disruptors, and every industry going forward will have disruptors. Every single industry, as technology gets better and better, industry gets disrupted. What makes us valuable is how we handle, how we pivot disruptions, how we truly show our value as realtors and professionals.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, man. Thanks.
Is that good?